Greetings to each and every one of you. My name is Paschal Durocher. I'm the Archbishop of Gatineau. This is my fifth video on the Mass, Unconfined. It's part 5 of the introduction, the last part, I promise. What I'm trying to do in the introduction is explain the point of view I want to take as we're going to look at the different elements that make up the celebration of the Eucharist. And the point of view I'm taking up is that of a Eucharistic spirituality which focuses in a special way on giving glory to God and on the salvation of the world, without neglecting all the gifts that the Eucharist brings to me as I celebrate it. I want to look at what the Eucharist does in terms of my relationship to God, what I want to give to God or give back to God, and what I want to give to others. And I pointed out in my last video how the Synod on the Eucharist in 2005 tried to bring those 2 points together when they gave as the theme the Eucharist, source and summit of the Church's life and mission, the focus on the mission. I read some excerpts from Pope Benedict XVI's post-apostolic exhortation on the sacrament of charity. And I realized reading excerpts, they go by so quickly and they are so rich. I've decided to post them on my blog, and I've put the link to my blog in the description of this video. So underneath the video, you'll see the link to my blog and you can go read those texts. I'm going to do the same for today's video because I want to speak about other texts. These produced during the Eucharistic Congress, International Eucharistic Congress, that was held in 2008 in Quebec City. I was lucky enough to participate in that event. In preparation for it, there was a basic theological document that was prepared under the direction of Cardinal Ouellet, who at that time was the Archbishop of Quebec. And the theme that had been chosen for the Congress was very interesting. It was the Eucharist, gift of God for the life of the world. Again, you see the connection here. It's a gift of God, but it's for the life of the world. So that when we come to celebrate the Eucharist, we have to keep in mind that the Eucharist is not just for us, it's for the world. And how will that gift be transmitted? It will be through us, And so here are some excerpts from that basic theological document. The Church, the risen Lord's partner, lives because of this gift of God, and united to Jesus Christ, the high priest, gives this gift to humanity. So in the Eucharist, we receive the gift of God, and then we are called to give this gift to all of humanity. The world benefits from the love of Christians and the Church's worship that glorifies God by interceding for the world. So yes, we are called to love others, but even our worship itself is an occasion for us to intercede for the world, to pray for the world. This is important for the world's salvation. Whether the Church dialogues with God in worship or in her mission to the Church does not live for herself, but for the one who came that they may have life and have it in abundance. So yes, we do gather because of what it gives to us. It gives us a lot to gather for Mass, but we don't live for ourselves. Our first concern isn't so much what it gives us, but how we are responding to Jesus's gift to share it with others. So that's one quote. Here's another quote. The Church witnesses among humanity to the gift that was given for the life of the world, to Jesus's gift. And so the Eucharist is an ongoing challenge to the quality of life and love that the disciples of Christ experience. If we are called to manifest that love to others, what does that look like? Does it show in our lives? Does the love of Christ shine through our lives for others? And so every time we celebrate the Eucharist, there's a kind of a challenge that is set before us. Another quote, we consider the Paschal Mystery, the death and resurrection of Jesus, the Paschal Mystery, as the central event of human history. Celebrating its memorial at the Eucharist, discloses our inconsistency each time we tolerate some form of misery, injustice, violence, exploitation, racism, or lack of freedom. If we tolerate inhumanity in this world, then we are being inconsistent with what we are celebrating when we gather for the Eucharist. And finally, from that basic theological document again, the Eucharist summons Christians to participate in the ongoing restoration of the world's, of the human condition and the world's plight. So the Eucharist is like a call to send us to care for the world. During the Eucharistic Synod, the Eucharistic Congress, Cardinal Ouellet had this wonderful idea that every afternoon, participants in the Congress, some who wanted to, would gather to reflect on what they had heard and how it was speaking to them and calling them forward. Because usually what happens is that a Eucharistic Congress, you go and you listen to talks in the morning, everybody together. We were 15,000 in the Colosseum in Quebec City, listening to these major speakers, witnesses, celebrating the Eucharist. And then in the afternoon, everybody breaks out for workshops. Well, in Quebec for the first time, the thought was that maybe some people would like to gather to speak with each other and be led through a process of reflection. And out of these small groups, a number of ideas came forward, a number of recommendations. And so there was a little coordinating committee, of which I was blessed to be a member, that gathered all this and wrote a final reflection and recommendations. And this is part of the acts, you could say, of the Congress. And out of this reflection recommendations, I'd just like to read 3 excerpts. The first: the development of a Eucharistic spirituality must be encouraged in all baptized persons. And this spirituality links the liturgical action of the Mass to Christian commitment in the heart of the world. It's not two different things. It's not as if I have a Eucharistic spirituality, so I go to Mass, or I'm a social justice Christian, I have a spirituality of involvement and I change the world, as if these are two spiritualities. There is only one Eucharistic spirituality, and it links those two together. Another excerpt: true Eucharistic spirituality is present when the celebration of the Mass engages the full participation of all the baptized, and when the desire to give glory to God is combined with a strong awareness of the world God invites us to transform. As I said in my last video, it's basically quoting from the French adaptation of the prayer just as we prepare to enter into the Eucharistic prayer at Mass. Let us gather in prayer, the priest says, as I prepare to offer my and your sacrifice. And the French adaptation says, for the glory of God and the salvation of the world. And so these two are held at the center of true Eucharistic spirituality. And finally, a third quote: for our celebrations and our prayer to be real, they must send us on a mission to the world by inspiring, nourishing, and supporting our Christian commitment at the heart of the world. Well, there's some food for thought, and you might want to go read those texts on my blog, reflect on them for yourselves. Feel free to respond either on my blog, on the YouTube channel of the diocese, or on my Facebook page or on the diocesan Facebook page. Please join in the conversation. And next video, well, we'll start with the first element of Mass, and we'll be talking about the ringing of the bells. Until then, take care.